What's up YouTube? This is No More Op 4 here with another in the field review. This time I'm reviewing Ruger's SR556. It is a semi-automatic piston driven system. It is chambered in 5.56 NATO 223 Remington. Comes with a 16 1/8 heavy contour chrome line cold hammer forged barrel. It also comes with 3 30 round PMAG magazines. I've got a few extra buddies of those. But in addition to that, it also comes with some very nice Troy folding flip-up battle sights. It's got a 10-inch Troy quad rail, which I've put some Magpul ladder panels on. In addition to that, I made some other changes. I swapped out the stock for the Magpul MOE stock and also have a MOE vertical grip on there. It does come with a Hogue battle grip. The trigger is pretty standard. It's a battle trigger. It's a pretty heavy pull, but it's smooth. I don't feel a lot of creep in it. I do like the trigger. I may swap it out, but you don't really want a hairpin trigger with an AR. On the top, I've got a Trijicon ACOG sight with an additional red dot sight mounted on top of that for some close range work. And altogether, it's a pretty good package when you consider the price. The Ruger, for the additions that you would probably make aftermarket, if you look at the price point on this, you're really about breaking even, maybe even getting a little bit of a better quality with some of the Troy and included other accessories that come with it. It is 36 inches long. It is a little bit heavy at 7.94 pounds, but again, we are working with a piston gun that is unloaded. 7.75 inches high and 2.5 inches wide. Now, the stock that came with the gun is a little bit longer than the MOE that I have on here, but the length of pull still between about 10 and 13.5 inches on the Ruger SR556. So that was just some quick field points on the Ruger SR556. Wanted to go over a little bit more in-depth detail here on the tabletop, so let's go through this quickly. We've got a lot to cover. First thing I wanted to just go over so you know what you're getting when you buy this. I wanted to cover the things I've added. Magpul ladder panels on the rails, in addition to a Magpul rail vertical grip. The Hogue pistol grip does come standard with that. I didn't need to add that, but I did put on Magpul's MOE stock. I thought that looked pretty nice on there. Again, as I covered in the field, the Troy flip-up battle sights did come standard. Obviously, Trijicons do not, unfortunately. This is a Trijicon ACOG. It's 4x32 with a mounted red dot. It's a very good sight for transitioning between short to long distances very quickly. Obviously, with any red dot sight, you do need to practice your holdover at different distances to figure out, where you're going to be hitting on paper. It's an easy way to do that just by practicing at the range. The trigger I've left standard. I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. I also haven't done anything to the internal parts as far as the charging handle or the bolt carrier group. That is all chrome, in addition to it being a chrome lined barrel. Another plus of the Ruger SR556. One of the details I wanted to cover before we get too far into the review, just wanted to put it out there that this is not the SR556C model. The SR556C actually has the flash suppressor machined into the gun. On this model, this is the full barrel model. The model number is 5902. The flash suppressor can actually be removed, and you could put a can on this gun, a suppressor, if you wanted to. Difference there, or I guess the reason I should say that Ruger came out with that model as a secondary option, was because some people complained about the front end weight of the gun. That's going to be a preference thing. While we're discussing around the trigger, I did just want to briefly show you close up the lower components. All pretty standard. Haven't put a bad lever on yet. Also still have the stock charging handle, also interchangeable, forward assist, mag release, all standard. The twist rate on the Ruger SR556 is 1:9, so that's going to be sufficient for your 55 grain and your 62. Low end probably handle about 50. High end you may be able to get away with some 77s. For my application, 55 and 62 grain are the two main grain weights that I'm going to be shooting, so 1 to 9 works absolutely fine for me. Next area I wanted to talk about was accuracy. Give you a little background information. I've shot about 2,500 rounds, that's a conservative estimate, through the Ruger, and this is one of the many targets that I've kept just for my own research while I was trying to figure out what the gun was capable of, and this was the one that really spoke to me the most. Now this was obviously a 100-yard target. I was shooting 2 separate types of ammo. Keep in mind, using a fixed 4-power scope, so nothing super powerful, and I was using a cheap Caldwell sled, not the most stable platform, so there was probably a little play within the sled, and I can tell you that pretty much with certainty that bench rest is not that sturdy. But I was still able to shoot a group with 55 grain cheap bulk ammunition, just a hair over 1 inch, so 1 MOA essentially. And that's exactly what I was looking for. You know, I've proven here with this that the gun is capable of shooting a group like that. The only question is if I can consistently shoot that accurately. I know the gun's capable, so no issues with accuracy, and as I said, no issues with reliability. 2,500, 3,000 plus rounds through the gun. Now, one thing I did want to discuss on the Ruger was the trigger pull, obviously another important area. I'll be honest, it's a heavy pull. I'm not sure what the poundage is off the top of my head. I'll annotate that for you, but it is heavy, and if you're looking for something lighter on this platform, you're really just going to have to swap it out. Aftermarket parts, plenty of those are available for you. I've never found it to be inconsistent. It breaks pretty much the same exact place every time. I haven't noticed any inconsistency with that. It is just a heavier trigger pull. So as the last point, I want to discuss that this is a piston operated rifle, and I wanted to cover this last because I didn't want this to turn into a DI versus a piston video. Anytime I review a particular gear item or a firearm like this, I don't compare anything to another gold standard. I just don't believe in that as far as when you're giving something a recommendation. I believe in just doing your own analysis on whatever you're reviewing's own merits and giving it its own review of pros and cons. Again, I don't compare anything to a gold standard. So in this video, because the piston system is obviously an important aspect of the gun, I will just go over some brief details here as far as how the piston system works in relation to a DI gun, so those of you that are new will have some additional insight for comparison. So here I'm going to show you 2 different illustrations I found online, the differences between direct impingement and piston operated firearms. Found it on public domain. Anyone can use these clips. Essentially, first we'll take a look at direct impingement. So when the gun is fired, high pressure gas caused by the bullet traveling through the barrel is vented through a small opening and it's forced down a tube. Now, the force of this high pressure gas is applied directly onto the bolt carrier group, and that's what impinges it back, ejecting the spent round and racking a fresh one. Now, in the piston design, also known as the short stroke piston, the gas is again vented just as it was in the direct impingement, but instead of using the gas to impinge the bolt carrier group, what happens is the gas is used to actuate a small rod, or a piston essentially, that through the use of its own kinetic energy is what pushes the bolt carrier group back. So same principle here. The spent cartridge is ejected and then a fresh round will be racked. Now, what causes the bolt carrier group to go back into battery is the spring that you've got in the buffer tube. On the SR556, the piston is controlled by this regulator here. There are 4 individual settings you can see. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. on the regulator. Setting 0 allows no gas, which forces the gun to be manually charged after each round. So you have to rack the charging handle to expel the spent cartridge and rack a new one. And then setting 1 allows for just a small amount of gas to actuate the piston. This is usually best suited for if you're shooting really hot rounds. Setting 2 allows for a standard amount of gas, and this is typically what you're going to use most of the time. Honestly, I've never had to change from setting 2. It's the one that it's on right now. Setting 3 allows the most amount of gas possible to actuate the piston. This, again, I've never had to use this, but essentially you would only use that if you were shooting really weak rounds that weren't cycling properly, or if it's been an extended period of time, if for whatever reason you haven't been able to clean the gun, you can bump it up to setting 3, which will allow the most gas in, and that's going to exert the most pressure on the bolt carrier group to help you have, if you're having problems ejecting rounds, if they're not feeding properly or ejecting properly, you can bump up the gas volume. So that was just some basics covering the differences between direct impingement and piston systems, and I did go over the regulator features for the Ruger SR556. There's pros and cons for both designs, and the argument is, the people that argue about this are very opinionated. I like to compare it to, it's just a step under the Israelis and the Palestinians with how angry some people get about when they argue about this. In my opinion, both of the options are excellent options. So what I'm going to do is just give you a little background on each of them, kind of show you why I don't get so involved in that argument. So the direct impingement system was pioneered by Eugene Stoner. He's essentially the person that came up with the direct impingement system as it is today. Now, like all new designs, it did have its initial growing pains, and they've made improvements over the years, but you cannot dispute the fact that the DI system has been in service with the U.S. military for longer than any other firearm in United States military history. So that speaks for itself. On the other hand, piston system guns, they've been around for a while, different versions of those, but one of the most important guns in world history was a piston, a short stroke piston gun. That was created by a man named Mikhail Kalashnikov. Probably heard of him because he's the one who came up with the AK-47. That gun's reputation also speaks for itself. That's a very reliable firearm. So no matter what side of the road you're on, there's no argument, both of the systems work. It's a preference thing, and I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, so I'm glad I got that off my chest here. Now, just kind of do an overview of everything. We've talked about the design and included features and accessories, the Troy rails, the Troy quad rail, the Troy flip-up sights, the P-mags, the Hogue battle grip. We've talked about accuracy, reliability. We've talked about design pros and cons. So I want to give you my analysis. Pretty extensive period of analysis. I've had this gun for a little over 2 years. And after that, I can honestly say without hesitation, I 100% recommend this gun. If you're looking for a piston gun or guns in this price range, absolutely check this out. Let me give you a little breakdown of the most important points, in my opinion, from the analysis that I've done here. First, I've had 0 reliability issues and no noticed wear on any of the internal parts of the gun or external after conservatively 3,000 plus rounds. 2,500 to 3,000. That's very conservative. So 0 issues there. I also was able to achieve 1 MOA shooting with a 4-power scope and a cheap bench rest with bulk 55 grain ammunition. No accuracy, no questions of this gun's accuracy at all. It's just, can I consistently shoot that accurately? It is heavier than a DI gun, just under 8 pounds unloaded, so that may be a deciding factor for you. Ergonomically, the design of the gun feels very natural in operation, which allows, at least for me, full control of the gun if I'm going at faster speeds, such as when I'm doing competition and things like that. Minimal felt recoil on this gun. I've shot some ARs that are a little bit more recoiling than others, just maybe to certain design features, different weight associations in different parts of the gun. I'm assuming that has a lot to do with the fact that this is heavier and also heavier in the front end. What that does for me though, I haven't noticed that I've ever had a problem with target transitioning. It is still very easy for me to transition between targets, and that's why I like my vertical grip. I don't like having the arm extended really far out. I like having the shorter arm, I guess, as you say. Maybe it's because I have really long arms, and it just, I can reach out when my hand's on the end all the way out to here, but it just doesn't feel as natural for me. So don't believe any of the hype with that kind of thing. Do what feels comfortable for you, but that's kind of for a topic for another video. Price. Gun retails for $19.99. Street value, you're going to find that for probably $15 to $17.50. If you go to some of the big brand stores, they're going to charge you more. That's how they do business. That's why I buy all my guns from local shops. But also another area of discussion. But $1,500, if you find a little bit less for that, I paid under $15 out the door, just under it, is a great value when you consider the fact that you're getting a full quad rail on a piston gun, and it is a Troy quad rail, so it's not, they definitely didn't skimp on quality there. Troy's a good company. Obviously, you've got the Troy folding battle sights as well. Those are high quality. They're not polymer, so they're not cheap. They're not flaky. They're not gonna break on you. And then PMags, Magpul, obviously another great company. I'd look into getting some brothers and sisters of those. But it's a great value for what you're getting. And if you're looking at, maybe you're looking at a DI gun that's $800 or $900 or maybe $1,000, but there's a couple of parts that you don't like on it. You've got to switch out the front sights, or the front sight and the rear sight, or maybe you want to put on a different rail. I bet if you did a cost analysis for all the work and extra parts that you're going to put into it, that the amount of money that you would spend would be more than if you just got a gun like this. Now, obviously, you have to like what's on here, but again, that's for you to decide. In addition to that, as a final point, just speaking to Ruger brand in general, if you ever have an issue, Ruger's customer service is top of the line. If you have a problem, they are, in my experience, always willing to help, very friendly, and they give excellent service. So thumbs up there. So all in all, obviously, I'm giving this gun a strong buy recommendation. Should a need ever arise that would necessitate it, this is the gun that I'm reaching for. It's proven itself to me in every way that I wanted it to, and without hesitation, I trust my life to this rifle. So if you're in the market for an AR-15, I strongly recommend you check out the Ruger SR556. Be sure to rate and subscribe to my channel. I do a lot of different types of videos, firearm reviews, outdoors, hunting, bushcraft. Do it all here. And please comment, rate, and subscribe, guys. As always, this is No More Op 4. Stay safe. I'm out.